Thank you for tuning in to your one and only Track and Field Bleacher Report. I'm your host, the official track head here, coming to you with this weekend's recap of the NCAA Division I men's track and field action. So, we had a real hot weekend this weekend. This is one of the best weekends. This is one of the key weekends that I look forward to every year, where a lot of the big meets are going on, where you have really great performances for the collegiate side and even on the professional side. Thank you for tuning in. This weekend, I saw all of the action that was going on, but I actually wasn't going to do a recap video this weekend because I just really wasn't feeling it. I wasn't really feeling like, people were viewing or supporting the channel, and I didn't want to waste my time. But if it wasn't for Connie B, a viewer Connie B, who made a comment today saying, we had a great weekend at the Clemson meet this past weekend, you need to do a recap. If it wasn't for her making that comment, I was not going to do a video this weekend. So shout out to Connie B for, motivating me and inspiring me and letting me know that actually somebody's out there anticipating to see what I have to say, because this was a really great weekend in track and field, and I had an opinion, but I just didn't feel like doing it because I didn't feel like it was being noticed, or some people, paid attention. So thank you, Connie B, and here I am doing a video. This video is actually going to be a little bit different from the videos that I've done in the past, because I'm only going to do the videos on the men's sprint side, because again, I wasn't really planning on doing a video this weekend. So I'm just going to give you guys the sprints, and that's it for this weekend, both the men's and the women's, and we'll see it going forward. If you guys like that, if you wanted me to do more, if you want to see the other events I watch and I pay attention to all of the events, and there was a lot of good distance action going on this past weekend, but I feel like I don't get support. I feel like I don't get the comments, or I don't feel like people pay attention to the sprint. The distance events. So they just kind of look in the first few minutes when I'm talking about the sprints. So I'm just going to give you that. So anyway, jumping into it. Again, we had a really good weekend with action going on for the collegians. We had two big meets. Primarily, most of the sprint times came out of the Arkansas meet, the Tyson Invitational, and the Clemson Tiger Paw Invitational. Those were the two big meets this past weekend, where we had some really great times, some records, and I'm just going to jump into it. In the men's 60 at the University of Clemson, the Clemson Tiger Paw Invitational, we had a good lockup. Kendall Williams for the University of Georgia, his teammate CJ Green from the University of Georgia. They faced Alexander Barnes from University of South Carolina. In that final, we had Kendall Williams from the University of Georgia coming out the victor. He ran a season's best of 6:61. So Kendall Williams is showing that even though he's not running 6.5 right now, that I think that for the first couple of meets that he's run, the meets that he's run so far this season, he's won. So he's showing that he's competitive, that he's ready to step up at the big stage in the big meets. And even though he doesn't have the fastest time of the season, he showed that that he could contend. So good job, Kendall Williams. Also from the University of the University of Southern California, USC, we had a breakout performance by Alexander Barnes. He's a sophomore at USC. He had a huge PR this past weekend running 6:61. Him and Kendall Williams both ran 6:61. Kendall Williams just edged him out and had the better time. He got second place. Alexander Barnes got second place at the Clemson meet this past weekend. He ran 6:61. His previous best was 6:79. So he shaved off almost 0.2 of a second off of his PR. And we wasn't on the lookout for Alexander Barnes. He's a sophomore, so he's young. He wasn't running really fast times like that in the past. So now he's put him amongst the top collegians this season, and he's going to be one to look out for as the season progresses. Maybe he's coming into shape right around at the right time, where all he has is conference and nationals left. He definitely will qualify for nationals with that 6:61 that he ran this past weekend, and we'll see that if he can make it to the finals at nationals once he gets there. Also, CJ Green, like I said, CJ Green, Kendall Williams' teammate from the University of Georgia, has been having a good season this past season as well. He PR'd running a 6:62 at the Clemson meet. At the Tyson Invitational meet in Arkansas, we had a good lockup between the two top performers, Andre Ewers from Florida State and Elijah Hall from Houston and Kenzo Cotton from Arkansas. We had a good matchup between those three schools. And Andre Ewers, he's the season leading collegian in the 60 with that 6:52 that he ran a couple of weeks ago, that amazing race that he ran. But this past week, he only managed to get 6 at the Tyson Invitational. So Andre Ewers, even though he ran that 6:52 a couple of weeks ago, with his teammates, I think that Florida State had swept and ran 1 through 4 at the Iowa meet a couple of weeks ago. Now when he gets against the other collegians and other competitions at a big meet, he was only able to pull out 6, which is I don't know if that was just a bad race for him, but he just didn't look like he was in it. Even in the prelims, he didn't look like he was at 6'5" shape. He didn't look like he's a season leading national winning collegian in the 60. He didn't look like he was going to be the one that was going to win nationals. That's what I'm trying to say. He didn't look like he was that in that type of shape. And even though you don't have to be in that type of shape at this point in the season, but if you're going to win nationals, I feel like you would see it. You would see it at at a meet like this. You would see that you were able to just rise to the occasion, and maybe it'll make him hungry. I don't know, but hopefully that 6:52 isn't all he has, and hopefully that 6:52 didn't come at the wrong time of the season. But anyway, Elijah Hall from the University of Houston is showing that he's in good shape. He's been putting down some good times, and he's showing that he's one worth mentioning. He didn't have the best start. He was behind both Raheem Chambers and Kenzo Cotton in the first 20 meters. He was behind, but he was able to bring on the top end speed and able to close well. He won the race running 6:58, which is a PR for him. Also, Kenzo Cotton, he was second in 6:59. It was a close finish between both Elijah and Kenzo Cotton from the University of Arkansas. He got second running 6:59, which is a season best for him. It's not a PR, but it's a season's best for Kenzo Cotton. And so he's rounding into shape at the right time of the season. From the University of Auburn, Raheem Chambers, he got third in that race. Raheem Chambers had the best start. He blazed out of the blocks. He was leading after the first 30 meters, but he got tracked down by both Kenzo Cotton and Elijah Hall. Raheem Chambers set a PR running 6:60. So Raheem Chambers, if he can find another gear, if he can hold his form within those last 20 or so meters, maybe he'll be able to place in the top 3 at nationals. But he has an amazing start. But I feel like if Elijah Hall and Kenzo Cotton get better starts than what they had this past weekend at the Tyson Invitational, it's going to be hard for Raheem Chambers to probably hold them off. So I feel like they have a better flip side than Raheem Chambers do. So that was a good race this past weekend at the Tyson Invitational meet, and also at the Tiger Paw meet in Clemson. And other meets that wasn't at Clemson or Tyson, we had Demeek Kemp. I've mentioned him a couple of times this season. He's been dropping his PR every time he's run the 60. In every meet that he's run the 60, he's dropped his PR. He's lowered his PR in the last couple of weeks. And so he's continued to do that. Demeek Kemp, he's from South Carolina State. He ran 6:59 this past weekend at the Damas Super Meet in Georgia. So he wasn't running against heavy competition. He wasn't at a meet like the Tyson Invitational or the Clemson meet. So he didn't have the big schools, the Arkansas, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Florida States. He didn't have those type of schools run against. But Demeek Kemp ran 6:59, which is a PR. And like I said, for the last couple of meets, he's lowered his PR in every single meet that he's run this season in the 60s. So we're going to have to watch out for South Carolina State's Demeek Kemp. We don't hear a lot about South Carolina State. So it's one of the smaller schools. It's not a big sprint heavy power. So, but we're going to have to look out for him to see that if he continues on this trajectory, hopefully, he'll be able to continue to improve his times. I know his conference meet is coming up this coming week. So we'll see how he do once he runs against North Carolina A&T, who has been having some good performances this season, and so that'll be a good matchup between the North Carolina A&T runners and Demeek Kemp. We'll see that. I think that'll be a good test to see if he's able to really make a solid run for it at nationals at the big stage. So we'll check that out in the next week to see how Demeek Kemp does against the North Carolina A&T, Jalen Mitchell. And his teammate that ran this past weekend, I think his teammate ran like 667 this past weekend at the Tyson Invitational. So we'll see how Demi Kemp does against that type of quality competition in the next week at their conference meet, at the MEAC conference meet. So that was a good, like I said, a good weekend for the men's 60. It was against some good times, some quality matchups, and some upsets. So that's how it goes. The men's 60. In the men's 60-meter hurdles, we have my boy Grant Holloway. I'm a huge fan. If you guys haven't already known, I'm a fan of Grant Holloway. I like his competitiveness. I like that he rises to the occasion at the big stage. Like if the chips are down, I would bet on Grant Holloway. I like that type of athlete where they just rise to the occasion whenever the stakes are risen. They rise to the occasion. I feel like Grant Holloway is very versatile, and he's a great competitor. He set the collegiate record this past weekend at the Clemson Tiger Paw Invitational. So the Florida sophomore, he beat Omar McLeod is the previous NCAA 60-meter hurdles collegiate record holder. That was 7:45. He set a couple of years back ago when he was at the University of Arkansas. In the same race, he ran against Grant Holloway, and I just felt like that would be a good race for Grant Holloway, because I know that Omar McLeod is a very stout, he's a very talented, he's a very tough competitor, and he's only gotten beaten a handful of times in the last couple of seasons at the pro level. He's your Olympic champion, he's your world champion. So Omar McLeod has all the accolades, and so I thought that would be a good race for Grant Holloway. I was expecting Omar McLeod to win the race. I didn't know that Grant Holloway was going to beat him, and beat him convincingly. It wasn't even because, it wasn't because Omar McLeod it wasn't because he wasn't able to have he didn't hit a whole lot of hurdles. He didn't have the best. Omar McLeod didn't have the best technical race, but I feel like Omar McLeod kind of buckled a little bit under pressure once Grant Holloway got beside him. So I think that showed that that Omar McLeod respected Grant Holloway to some degree, even though I would have thought that Grant Holloway would have been the one that was nervous and would have maybe buckled a little bit under the pressure of running against this highly accomplished athlete. And Omar McLeod, the tables, it was reversed, and it seemed like Omar McLeod was the one that kind of buckled under the pressure of Grant Holloway, because I don't think that Omar McLeod was expecting or used to, or just thinking that someone was going to really challenge and pressure him the way that that Grant Holloway did after the second hurdle. So Grant Holloway ran 7:42. The new NCAA 60-meter men's collegiate record holder. So congratulations! Shout out to Grant Holloway. I think that obviously he's definitely should be the extreme favorite to win NC's. Barring that he doesn't have any type of injury or he doesn't have any trouble over the hurdles. I think that he will definitely be your NCAA champion. I'm hoping that he will be able to defend his championship from last year, and I hope that he can get through the season healthy. And I don't know, it's going to be hard for Florida to keep Grant Holloway. I mean, I heard him mention in the interview he did, I think last year or earlier this year, that he was going to stay at Florida his whole 4 years. He promised that he was going to stay at Florida his whole 4 years. But I mean, if he keeps running the way he's running in these hurdles, it's going to be hard for them to keep him. But so that's going to be something that we have to watch out. And as the years come, this isn't a world outdoors season, so he may not be that pressed to go pro this year, maybe next year, or prior to the Olympics in 2020. He may feel like he want to focus on the Olympics. I don't know, but Grant Holloway definitely could go pro if he wanted to, but we'll see. We'll see if he stays at Florida. I think if he stays at Florida, he'll just keep that great energy at Florida, and I think they'll continue to probably win championships if he stays there. And maybe that's his motivation, and maybe that's what he wants to do, just have that great team environment at the University of Florida. So this segment on the men's 60-meter hurdles was all about Grant Holloway, if you didn't know. So in other men's 60-meter hurdle results this past weekend, Ruben Walters from the University of Alabama, he was at the Clemson meet. He ran in the race with Grant Holloway, and he ran a PR of 7:61. So he is now your, I think, number 2 or 3 collegian of the season in the men's 60 hurdle. So to be 2/10 behind Grant Holloway and to be, amongst the top 3 times of the season in the men's 60-meter hurdles, you almost forget about the rest of the competitors in the field. But Ruben Walters from the University of Alabama is having a really great season. Like I said, he PR'd this past weekend. He ran 7:61, which is a great time. I mean, usually that's probably the season best time at this time of the season, or close to the season best time throughout the whole season for collegians. So to run 7:61 is not a slow time, and usually you don't get those type of times till you get to nationals or until you get to your conference meet. So shout out to Ruben Walters for running a great time. It's just not on the level that Grant Holloway is on right now. Also, at the Tyson Invitational meet, we had Damian Thompson, the freshman from LSU, who's having a really great season. He's quietly having a really good season. I think he's either won or got in the top 3 in all of his competitions that he's run so far for the 60-meter hurdles, and so he's looked really good in every competition that he's raced. And he's pretty much either beat or, like I said, got in the top 3 and with all the other hurdlers that he's competed against. He hasn't competed against Grant Holloway this season, but most of the other competitors that he's run against, he's beat or gotten close to beating. So Damian Thomas from LSU. He's a freshman. He's young and he's having a really good season. So we'll have to watch out for Damian Thomas. I don't think he's going to upset Grant Holloway at SECs or at nationals, but you have these 3 athletes. You have Ruben Walters, you have Grant Holloway, you have other athletes in the SEC that'll put on a good show in the hurdles if they all run. And so I think it'll be a good preview for nationals. The SEC 60-meter hurdle meet at the SEC conference meet coming up in a couple of weeks. I think it'll be a good preview of what's going to happen coming up. The men's 200. The men's 200 is still slowly growing. It's still not a lot of heavy activity going on. I think that's probably one of the, I don't want to say it's one of the weaker events this year, but maybe it is one of the weaker events on the sprint side. I think the men's 200 is probably going to be one of the weaker events compared to other years where there was a lot of top-heavy talent in the men's 200, or maybe just there haven't been a lot of head-to-head matchups, and maybe they're at conference during the conference meets, a lot of the head-to-head matchups in the 200. We'll see the times really come in on the men's 200. But at the Tyson meet this past weekend, Elijah Hall from Houston, from the University of Houston, he's having a really solid season for the University of Houston, and I hope he stays healthy this year. He won the Tyson Invitational meet running 2015. He ran 2052. I'm sorry. Elijah Hall ran 2052 this past weekend, winning the Tyson Invitational meet. Rodney Rowe from North Carolina A&T. That's the other North Carolina A&T runner that I was trying to think about earlier when I was talking about Jalen Mitchell and running against Demick Kemp. But Rodney Rowe from the North Carolina A&T Aggies, he ran overall PR, overall 200 PR, both indoors and outdoors. He ran 2074. He got second at the Tyson Invitational meet this past weekend. So congratulations, to a good athlete and Rodney Rowe. North Carolina A&T, they're coming on. These last couple of years, they've been putting a couple of individuals, amongst the top talent in the in NC. So North Carolina A&T has a good program going on down in Greensboro. Kenzo Cotton from the University of Arkansas is Mr. Consistency. He ran 2079 at home at the Tyson Invitational. He got third. So, for Rodney Rowe to beat an athlete like Kenzo Cotton, that says a lot. This was actually Kenzo Cotton's season debut in the 200. So I expect at SECs he'll probably run faster than 2079. So I think he'll lower his time and probably get close to his PR probably at SECs this in a couple of weeks. At the next meet they run in a couple of weeks. At the Clemson meet, Dylan Pebbles from North Carolina State. He's a sophomore. He was a top collegian at the Clemson meet. He ran 2087, which is a PR for him. I hope I pronounced his last name right. Dylan Pebbles from North Carolina State. He's a sophomore. He ran 2087 this past weekend. So congratulations. That was a good time for him. He won a big meet, so that's a big win for him this past weekend. So that was your men's 200s. Again, the time still coming in slowly but surely. I think after the conference meet, we'll really break down that event and see if it's a weak event this year. But we'll see. We won't know until the conference meets to see what everyone does at their conferences. So we'll check that out. The men's 400 at the Clemson meet, the Tiger Paul Invitational, we had some really great times at the men's 400. This was the premier. This was the premier meet for the men's 400. We had Michael Norman from USC, the talented sophomore at USC. He ran 50 flat, so that's 55.00, which is the number 5 all-time time indoors for collegians, and that's an indoor PR for Michael Norman. So he's showing that he was a super talent coming out of high school. He ran 45 low out of high school. So he's showing that he's definitely living up to all the accolades and all of the expectations that was put onto him. He ran your number 5 time all time indoor amongst collegians at the same meet, but I'm not in the same heat. We had Akeem Bloomfield, this sophomore from the University of Auburn. So Akeem Bloomfield, he didn't race Michael Norman. They weren't in the same heat, but in a different heat. Akeem Bloomfield ran the number 6 all-time time, and also ran an indoor PR for him, running 45.02. So the sophomore from out of Jamaica, he ran the number 6 all-time time, and it showed that if those two locked up in the same heat, there definitely probably could have been a 44 second time produced out of that race. So they're not in the same conference, so they won't see each other at conference meet. But they may or they may not see each other at nationals. It just depends on how the lane assignments and how the lane draws happen, and where they, if they qualify for the finals, they may or may not end up in the same heat at nationals. So I would love to see those two end up in the same heat to see if they can bring the heat and potentially break. I don't know if they can break the NC national record in the 400 by Karan Clement. But they can get close. They can lower their all-time standing probably. They're both sophomores, so they still have a couple of more years to go. And so we'll see how that goes for those two. Also at the Clemson meet, not to be forgotten, we had Nathan Strother from the University of Tennessee. He set an indoor personal best running 45.56. His previous indoor personal best he ran earlier this season running 46.39. So he shaved off almost a whole second from a couple of weeks ago. And it's in the 400s. So that's a huge run for Nathan Strother from the University of Tennessee. At the Tyson meet in Arkansas, we had Obi Abakwe on his home track for the University of Arkansas. He ran an overall, both indoors and outdoors, PR of 45.38. So congratulations to Obi Abakwe from Arkansas for winning at home at the Tyson meet. He won. He beat Will London from the University of Baylor. Will London had set an indoor PR this past weekend at the Tyson meet, running 45.92. So congratulations to Will London from Baylor. So this past weekend we had in the 4x4, we had a new collegiate record set by not Florida, not Texas A&M, not LSU, but the University of Southern California, USC. So I was shocked because I just felt like Florida, Texas A&M, I felt like those two were above the rest. I felt like those two teams were going to probably break the collegiate record, and they weren't. There was no other team that was going to be able to run with them. But I was surprised this past weekend when USC assembled their A4x4 and they brought the noise, they brought the pain to both Florida and Texas A&M. I mean, they brought the heat. USC ran 301.98, which is now your new collegiate record for the men's in the 4x4. The order was Zach Shidnick. He's a freshman. I mentioned him. He's an impact freshman. He's a very talented freshman. He ran like 45-20 something out of high school. So he came in with very, very stout credentials, and He was a good recruit for them. He was your pop off. He split 46-28 on the first leg. They were behind Florida, who ran Conley Fasasi. Florida ran Conley Fasasi on first leg, and Florida actually handed off the baton in first, running 46-08 on Conley's leg. Actually, Zach got the break at 200 meters, but Conley was able to overpass Zach in the last 100 meters to hand off the baton first to Grant Holloway. So Grant Holloway got the baton first on second leg for the University of Florida, and you would expect with Grant Holloway getting the baton in the lead for Florida that he's not going to relinquish the lead. Like, I don't see too many individuals tracking him down unless it was like a Fred Curley type. You know, I wouldn't see too many individuals really giving it to him. But Ry Benjamin from USC, the surprise transfer from UCLA. Ry Benjamin used to run for UCLA. He transferred to USC, and he's not even really a 400 specialty. So he's not a 400 specialist. He's really a sprinter. Ry Benjamin was able to split 44-63 on second leg and overtook Grant Holloway's 45-12 split, and that happened that happened really in the last 150 to 100 meters. He was able to overtake Grant Holloway, which was surprising because Grant Holloway is a fighter, and he just wasn't able to fight and keep up with Ry Benjamin's 44-6 split. So that put USC in front of Florida going into third leg, which USC ran Ricky Morgan, who's a 400 runner for USC. He's a senior. He's been there all 4 years. He's been consistent. I think he's been your Pac-12 champion before for USC. So that was a great leg to have on third leg. Ricky Benjamin split 45-72. So that was a respectable split. Chance Sawyers, he's a freshman for Florida. He hung on. He split 45-67. Wasn't able to really close a gap, but he was able to hang on and stay close to Ricky Morgan from USC, handing the baton off to Michael Norman. Michael Norman had just ran 45 flat the day before in the 400, so you knew that he was definitely capable of splitting 44 seconds, but he took it easy. He actually split 45-35. Yeah, he split 45-35. He was definitely capable of splitting 44 low if he wanted to, but he took it easy on him, split 45-3, and still was able to come out with the collegiate record. The freshman from Florida, Benjamin Vidal, he gave a really hard effort. He tried to, connect to Michael Norman. He actually tried to overtake Michael Norman on the backstretch going into the last lap. Michael Norman wasn't having it. He tried though. Benjamin Vidal split 45-36. He just, he used all his energy in the first 250 meters, and he wasn't able to finish as strongly. And so the University of Southern California set your men's collegiate record. So they now actually hold the collegiate record on the women's and the men's 4x4. So USC is the 4x4 king and queen right now in indoors, especially for the 4x4. So good job to USC men, to Florida men who ran the number 2 time. They broke the previous collegiate record in the process, running 3:02.23, but they weren't able to outrun USC. And with Ricky Morgan with Michael Norman only splitting 45-35, if he could have split 44-35 a whole second, they could have ran 3 flat or 3:01 low. So I think that it's going to be hard for Florida to beat USC. I think just, it's going to be hard, and with those legs, it's going to be hard for anyone to beat USC in the 4x4. Not to forget, in that same race, Texas A&M was behind from the jump. They split 46-40 on the first leg, which isn't a bad first leg. It's not a bad first leg to have. They were behind from the jump. They was in third from the jump, and they just stayed there the whole race. They came back with a 45-54 in the second leg. Third leg ran a 46-1. The ankle leg, Malik Curley, Fred Curley's younger brother, he split 44-88. So Malik Curley had the second fastest split of the entire 4x4 competition, and he wasn't able to connect. He wasn't able to connect with the rest of them. They ran 3:02.95, which is the number 3 time of the season so far for Texas A&M. So that was a really good 4x4 at the Clemson meet this past weekend. A very great 4x4. I wish they had a live feed there. They needed to have a live feed there at the Clemson meet because that was a big meet, and for them to have those many schools and that many sprint heavy schools, they need to have some type of live feed at a meet like that. I mean, that meet was very, in my opinion, that meet probably was better quality on the men's side than the Tyson Invitational. So going forward, as you know, as they continue to have more and more meets at the Clemson meet, now that they have that new super fast bank track there, and that track has produced some really fast times in these last 2 years. Some records, a lot of records have been broken at that track. So I think they're gonna have to start putting some type of live feed so that we can, us track and field bleacher reporters, can see and report better on what's going on at those meets. And other 4x4 action at the Tyson meet, at the Tyson Invitational meet, we had the University of Houston. They ran your number 4 time of the season, so they're now your number 4 ranked school on the NCAA list. They ran 304. At the Texas Tech this weekend, we had TCU. The TCU men's squad ran 304 as well, and so they are now your number 5 school of the season on your NCAA list. So 4x4, whew, it was a lot. It was the action, the heat was brought, the NCAA record was set, and it was not an SEC school. I don't think I remember the last time the SEC school did not hold the men's 4x4 collegiate record. So shout out to USC, good job, and we'll see how the rest of the season, those 3 schools won't lock up. You'll have Florida and Texas A&M probably lock up at SEC, but they may not choose to run their A squads because it's no real need for them, and it would just be bragging rights. And I think that with Nationals being 2 weeks after SEC, I wouldn't risk injuring or anything stupid happening in the 4x4 when they don't need to. So I think that they, you know, especially with a team like USC sitting out and resting probably and not running their A squad at their conference meet, I feel like that Florida and A&M, probably need to do the same thing and just make sure they have their eggs ready to hatch at Nationals when it's time to run against USC again in another month. So we'll be here, we'll be reporting on it. So I thank you if you've watched this video. Sorry, this video is a little bit long. It's longer than I really wanted it. I thought it was going to be a short video. It's actually not a short video. So I thank you if you've gotten this far. I appreciate it. If you've gotten this far, let me know you got this far. Let me know you got through this whole video. If you want, you can send me a direct message on YouTube. Let me know that you watched this whole video. Let me know that you liked this video. So that, I'll be encouraged, I'll be motivated, I'll be inspired to do more videos and talk about this in the great depth that I just talked about these events. And these was only just the sprint events. I didn't even get into the distance races. I didn't even get into all the great marks that were put down this past weekend on the distance side of the events. But I just focused on the sprint events. So please let me know. Please give me your feedback. Let me know if you liked, if you enjoy, what you guys think, and if you actually got this far into the video, and if you appreciate me going into depth and doing this the way I'm doing it. So give me some feedback. I need your feedback. You don't only have to like, comment, and subscribe. Just give me some feedback to see if you actually are watching and enjoying these type of videos. So thank you for tuning in. Again, this is your track and field bleacher reporter, and I appreciate you for taking the time out and supporting the channel and supporting me in this journey. So thank you for tuning in to the one and only track and field bleacher reporter.